Hello. I think I made it. I think I'm online as it seems. Good morning to you, or good afternoon. Here we have afternoon already. And in the last second before it started, I thought I could attach a mouse maybe so I can more easily. Okay, I think that's it. Yes, I'm there and everything is working fine. Great. Again, hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I would like to wait for just a little bit, some minutes maybe, until those who usually come are there. And then we do what we thought we would do today. Most probably we will start a guided meditation. Hi, Dan from Sydney. Very nice. What time is it in Sydney now? And from this looks like Khmer writing. This is very nice. I have to admit, okay. I have to admit I'm a little bit sick today, but I think I'll surely make it through the talk from North Carolina. Guten Morgen. So I'm happy you all are here. We said last time that we would do a guided meditation today, and I really would do so, but I have to say that it'll be very, very difficult because we're not in the same place and I can't see you. It would be a little bit easier if I could see you, but I can only see you writing comments and questions. So I'm totally out of touch with you. And when I guide meditation, that has a lot to do with the present moment. And of course, best is when we do it in a group that the group experiences the same present moment. Well, your moments wherever you are in Sydney, in Bangladesh, in North Carolina, and Germany, that's totally different. Your present moment, most probably when I'm speaking, is hearing, hearing, hearing. My present moment would be knowing me saying something, so bear up with it be having shortcomings. It cannot be perfect. It definitely is far away from being perfect, because the meditation I would like to guide, and of course I would like you to practice also, is the meditation Vipassanā. And that's what I'm practicing the most. Vipassanā by Ajahn Tong, taught by Ajahn Tong, who died 2 years ago and who lived in Thailand, Wat Chom Tong. And he taught this meditation practice for his entire monk's career. And as a young monk, he had been sent to to Burma to study the meditation techniques of Mahasi Sayador. And he went there and studied, and then later he went back to Thailand and modified what he had learned. But it was still had so much common grounds, let's say, with what Mahasi Sayador taught, that the monks from Burma went to Wat Chom Tong and Wat Rampong, where I studied mainly, and where Ajahn Tong method is also taught, where they went at least once a year, twice a year, and also the Thai monks would go to Burma to keep in touch with the monks there in the Mahasi Sayador Center. So it is very, very close, yet it is not the same. There are some variations. I think mainly that is because Ajahn Tong was a very, very energetic person. And not all of us are. And so the meditation technique of Ajahn Tong might be draining and exhausting for some people, but it is entirely made to get over this self, it's to exhaust you so much, actually, that you forget about yourself and that you give in and accept things as they really are. I just want to talk, before we start to really practice, I just thought I would speak a little bit about it. So what else to say? This is, in fact, Vipassana meditation. And Vipassana means just seeing clearly. Passana, that is where the seeing comes from. And the Vi is a prefix that then would make the clearly. It's not meaning clearly, the Vi, but Vi in Pali is a prefix that makes the things stronger. So seeing strongly, seeing, well, clearly, things as they really are, that is what we should do. That is what the Buddha requests us. And that is, in fact, seeing anicca, dukkha, and anatta. That is what we shall see clearly as it is. And we should not only see it like, yes, I know, I heard of it, but we should thoroughly dive into it and understand it so much so that we fully see and know, and thus become arahants or arahantas. And this was the idea, of course, of Mahasi Sayadaw and of course also of Ajahn Tong. So he was not teaching any meditation for well-being or feeling good or something. That is not the case. It is, if you do courses like that, you can be very exhausted. It can be very tiring. It can be, whew, yeah, going through hell. But it also can be seeing heavens and seeing the best things that you can imagine. So everything is possible. You never know, but you have to put everything into it. You will only get out of it what you give in. There is, if you give nothing in of your effort, of your virya, we have talked about it. If you don't give anything of it, of awareness, of samadhi and sati and all these things, if you don't give it in, you won't get anything out of it. You will find it just horrible, most probably. But I already told you that before I started this technique, I tried a lot of things and mainly stuck with Zen meditation. I think this was quite good, that I had a strong and solid base of concentration. This helps when you do the Vipassana, because also I mentioned it in one of my talks earlier, both need to be levels, both the concentration and the awareness need to be balanced. You can't have one higher than the other. Then you won't get the result. That's not samma. That's not the right thing. So they have to both be there, and they have to be both in the end strong. But when we start now to practice, it's just scratching the surface. You know, it won't get deep, but maybe when we do it several times, you can get a feel of it and practice it on your own at home. So that would be nice. And that was the reason why I finally gave in and said, of course, yes, we can do a guided meditation. I'm not doing it very often. And I remember that I also agreed to do a guided metta meditation, but that won't be today and also not next week. But I stick to my promise. I will do that one day. I'm tested. I'm not having COVID, although I have a cough. But it's not COVID. So this practice is around the four satipatthana, the four bases of mindfulness, the four pillars. Oh, thank you. Yes, somebody writes, feel better soon. I will, certainly will. This, fortunately, being sick is also anicca. That is the good part. And so Vipassana, we cleared already. The four satipatthanas is the next term that we have to talk about. Satipatthana we have in fact talked about already, but just to remind ourselves, just to remember, this is kaya, that is the body. Then we have feelings, vedana. Then we have chitta, that is the hard mind. Asian people touch here when they talk about it. So European people would touch here most probably. But I think after being in Thailand for so long, I really think touching here when it comes to chitta is more appropriate. Chitta and Dhamma. That is a difficult term. Here in our case, I would think and I would translate it as things, mental things, of which the first are the hindrances, the 5 hindrances. What are the hindrances now? Nivarana. I had given already entire retreats only to look at the nivarana, the hindrances, which is very, very interesting because we always have them everywhere and always. There is no escape unless we are practicing deep meditation so that we overcome the hindrances at least for moments. Better, of course, we overcome them for good, but that might take a little longer. So for the time being, we just try to overcome them for a moment. And in this moment, in this very moment, when we have overcome the hindrances, we can really start meditating. Then our hearts and our minds are ready to go ahead and practice, really practice for what the Buddha is teaching us, for the absorptions and for enlightenment. But well, that's a long way to go. Before that, we talked about that also already, we have to close our sense doors. And when the sense doors are closed, we can then see our hindrances quite well. And when we see our hindrances, we can diminish them, calm them down. The 5 hindrances are, to let me say that also, the 5 hindrances are Ajahn Noah, one of the teachers of that method, who lives in Canada, says the 5D, see if I remember, desire, desire, not disagreeing, but something like, displeasure, something like that, discord, distraction, drowsiness, and doubt. These are not the official translations of the 5 hindrances into English, but I think it's good to remember the 5 Ds. Anyway, you all know them. I don't know whether I have to say too much about it, but so much be said that these hindrances are there. Yes, thank you. These hindrances are there every single thought. These are from the slightest motion to the biggest possible. So in sensual desire, that would be if you have a tiny small hope, or you have an obsession, in the same, both the same will ruin entirely your meditation practice. So you shouldn't give in to them. You shouldn't give them any room. You should see them arise, be aware and concentrated enough so that you can let them go. And also with aversion, a tiny little not wanting something, a tiny little disturbance of an itch that might be not bad at all, but it is for your enlightenment as bad as a really strong hatred, a really strong aversion. Because, you sit there and you calmed down your not yet mental formations, your physical, your bodily formations. So you're not moving much. So you can't do any harm by body. You can't do any harm by speech because you are silent, because you are in meditation. But you have this mind. In there, you can do a lot of harm. And these tiny things like, oh, this itch is bothering me. I want to scratch. How long does it take? How much longer do I need to sit here? What is this really a good meditation? Oh, this meditation is going so bad. All these thoughts are the ruin of your meditation. So, yes, Niranjan is asking a very interesting question. I'm going to show it. Respected Bhikkhuni, I like to know why we are not able to get an arahant. I'm not going much into questions maybe today because we want to practice. But the thing is, we cannot be arahants because I think there are several reasons for that. Because for one, we might not be close enough to the teaching of the Buddha anymore. Although we can hear it, we're not so close and in touch with it. Earlier, when the people saw him, heard him, that poof, they became arahants. Also, it is said they, as the Buddha himself, spent a lot of time in former lives with him together and practiced as well. So they have spent so many lifetimes together and practiced and have purified their minds and perfected their paramis, so much so that they could, when they met the Buddha again, very soon become arahants. And now we are basically on our own. We have the teaching, but there are so many distorted teachings, and even who knows whether I'm giving the right teaching that leads to arahantship. I'm not an arahant myself, so how can you be sure that what I would teach leads there? I would think so. I would think this is the only way that will lead to arahantship. But no guarantee. So there is a lot of doubt. And we do have a lot of hindrances. And what I see nowadays is the people don't have commitment anymore. And I think you need a lot of commitment to become an arahant. A commitment is one thing. You know, people nowadays, they forget their commitments after 5 minutes. Even 50 years back when I was a child, it was totally different. There was much stronger commitment to your word. You made a promise and you stuck to it. Today, that's not the case. So, in it is seen when you read the suttas that when at that time somebody gave a commitment to a friend, I'm your friend and I'm with you, then they stuck, then they were committed to death even. And we don't have that anymore. And if you are not committed to arahantship, to death, so that it's either I become an arahant or I die, then I don't think you have the mental strength, the power to really get there. So, but that was just an excursion that I found very interesting. So let me get back to the four satipatthana and the hindrances. We were with the hindrances, and I think when we are with it, why we can't become an arahant, the doubt. Today we doubt so much. We doubt, is this the Dhamma? What I hear, if it's the Dhamma, if it's really true, was Buddha really enlightened, or was there not somebody more enlightened? Maybe some other teacher, or maybe I don't know. And we search here and search there, and we have the Buddha's teaching right in front. But we're neglecting it because we have doubts. Then we doubt also ourselves. How many people do I hear either say, I'm afraid to become an arahant, or say, I'll never become an arahant in this life. I can't do. And these are both views, assumptions that have nothing to do with the Dhamma. You have to have trust in yourself as much as you have trust in the Buddha and the Dhamma, because you are a part of the Sangha. If you are somebody who practices for enlightenment, then you are part of the Sangha, of the fourfold Sangha, maybe not of the Bhikkhu and the Bhikkhuni Sangha, but of the fourfold assembly of bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, upasakas, and upasikas. And by that, when you have doubts in yourself, you doubt the Sangha. So if you don't trust that you can do, it won't happen. That is also, coming back to the hindrances, one reason why we cannot become arahants. So what else do we have? Of course, if you have the hindrance of drowsiness and laziness and dullness, and you don't want, and you don't feel like, and you don't want to bother now to walk or to sit, it won't work. It's such a hindrance to your practice, because sometimes you won't even start. And when you start, you will not put all effort in it. And when you put all effort in it, you won't be able to keep it up. And restlessness and remorse is restless thinking, and remorse, I think, is a really valid reason not to become enlightened. If you have restlessness because you feel guilty, you feel you did something you shouldn't have, or you have done something, is that not the same? I'm a little bit dull myself today, excuse me, please. So you shouldn't have done something and you regret it, or you should have done something and you didn't and you regret it. So these are restlessness and remorse from the mental side, but also if you have pains and can't sit. I know from Thailand, they say the cushion is burning. You can't sit anymore. You can't just sit. And it feels really like you have to jump off because the cushion is burning or something. And because you're so restless. So these are the hindrances we face when we are trying to meditate and become enlightened. I said that we are practicing with the method of Ajahn Tong, the four satipatthanas, and I didn't get into detail about each of them. I started with Dhamma, so let me briefly go back to Kaya, to the body. That is in the Satipatthana Sutta, you find the breath, the breathing in and breathing out, which is also mentioned as Anapanasati in the Anapanasati Sutta. Breathing in and breathing out. That is body, observing the body. Also movements, walking up and down, bending, stretching, turning around. All these things are physical things. They are to find in the body satipatthana. So there is more in the Satipatthana Sutta, but we're not talking about the Satipatthana Sutta, but just that about the practice that we're about to do soon. So there is this body we can be aware of. There are other things in the body. There are pains, there are itches, there are tiny movements when we sit in meditation. All this is observed in the Satipatthana Sutta. When it comes to pain or an itch, it can quickly go to the next Satipatthana, Vedana, the feeling. You're feeling an itch. I have one right now. And at first, it's just a physical sensation. It's just a bodily thing. But it comes to the feeling, satipatthana, very quickly. And we have to deal with three kinds of, three kinds of feelings, or six kinds. So that is pleasant, unpleasant, or neither unpleasant nor pleasant. And that can be either physical or mental. So that is how it becomes six. Then we would be able to observe, for example, that itch still there. I can observe it, and I know it as a unpleasant physical feeling. If I'm happy, that would be a pleasant mental feeling. So the chitta, to give you just a little idea of what I think it is, I might not be in line totally with everybody else, but I think quite in line with what the Buddha said. That is the mental state. So, you know, when people are grumpy all the time, they have a grumpy chitta, because the chitta has the is where the I don't find the word for it. So it's not just a brief feeling. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha says, I do not know anything that is as quickly changing as feelings. And chitta is not that fast. So the things there manifest themselves. So when I'm having a grumpy chitta, for example, it shows in my face, it shows in my movements. Because that is where I commonly go. Because my chitta, my emotional states, my mental states are like that most of the time, or going there by nature, by habit, more than by nature, by habits. So these things, these chittas, are mental states, heart states, that emotional states that we deal with. And they can be a little bit longer than thoughts or than feelings. Okay, what else do we need to talk about before we start to practice? Usually we would do first a mindful prostration. Then we would do walking meditation. We won't do today. Today we try to do only the meditation in sitting. Joseph is asking about the Vedana. No, not exactly like Vedana. It might be born from a Vedana, but it has become a habit. The Buddha speaks about that we have tendencies and underlying tendencies, and so we do things always in a certain way. We do things, we think things always in a certain way, and that creates our habits, and that is forming our chitta. Well, there's nothing really physically to form, but that is how our chitta is caught in habits, and that is why it is lasting longer. Must not be that case, but it usually is. So I was with that we do not the mindful prostration, and that we do not the walking meditation today. We just try to do the sitting meditation, and I think we do it 15 minutes. I will set my alarm and just try to explain to you while we are sit what we would do. And it is, of course, as I said right in the beginning, not your present moment, because I can't see you, I'm not with you, I'm not in touch with you. So this is very difficult and very not perfect, but it might give you an idea of what the practice is about. I'm trying to practice just with you, putting the alarm on 15 minutes. So I hope you sit in a good position already, in a good position for meditation. Whether you sit on a chair or you sit on the ground, never mind. You can sit with legs crossed, with legs stretched, not towards the Buddha, but you sit there. And what is important is that your back is upright. If you sit on the floor, or you sit on a cushion, or you sit on a chair, you should feel your buttocks. And then try to not stretch your upper body, but to put it upright in an upright position, not into a yoga stretch, but into an upright position, so that all your organs of your breathing body can breathe and move freely. They should just be able to follow gravity. Check your shoulders. They should not be tensed. They should not be to the front and not to the back, not up, but just relaxed. Check your cheek. There we keep a lot of tensions usually. Not the cheek, the chin. A lot of anger and bad feelings are suppressed there, are held back there. And then also here, and the gorge, I think it's called. Check in the back of your mouth, that the bottom of the tongue is relaxed. We're holding back so much there, and we are really keeping a lot of tensions there, and it should be relaxed. So you sit there upright, relaxed. For the moment, the legs and arms are not that important, but we would keep our hands together in that way. On our laps. So. And we're taking some deep breath. The first is the breath out. So we release all the extra, all the air that is the in our body. Out with it. Then an in breath deep. And an out breath. 2-3 times. Deep breath. And after that, after those 2 or 3 deep breaths, just breathe normal. We're not controlling breath. We're not holding it. But we try to observe it in our breath body. The breath body is all that can be moved by breathing. So you would observe the abdomen rising and falling. It rises either depending on where you observe. It rises to the front and falls back. Or if more at the sternum, it rises up and falls down. You just choose where in your belly you want to observe your breath. And you observe your abdomen rising, and you breathe in. And falling, and you breathe out. Rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling. And you make a mental note of every in-breath and every out-breath by naming what is happening in your present moment, rising and falling. You say it in your mind. So in the meantime, there might have been thoughts. When a thought arises, of course you keep breathing. But your present moment has been a thought, and you have come to know that there was a thought. So once you know it, you name it. Thinking. 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 Thought should have disappeared. And you go back to the rising, the falling. Rising. That was a hearing. There was a sound. And when there's a sound, you say, hearing, hearing. And you go back to the rising and the falling. When there's a thought, you say thinking, 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 until thought disappears. When there's a pain or the feet are getting numb already, you can say numb, pain, pain. You want to move already. That would be wanting to move or just wanting, wanting, wanting. Here at my end there was hearing, hearing, hearing. That is just the beginning. That is the very, very first exercise. Just sit there and observe the breath. rising and falling. You can also observe sitting. Sitting. You can know it in your buttocks or wherever you've touched the ground or at a point within your body, and you know, sitting. That is for now your main meditation object, rising, falling, sitting. And whatever else occurs, hearing, hearing, hearing. That was the gong. The 15 minutes are over already. So we have a few minutes if there is any question. We can talk about it for a few more minutes. That was just the very, very first taste of the meditation practice of Arjun. There's something, let me see. It's very difficult to understand which hindrance is troubling my mind. How to know that? That comes with the experience. You learn to distinguish, not to extinguish also, but to distinguish the hindrances. You will learn little by little. That was just a very, very brief look into the meditation practice. I think now that you know it a little bit, we could do a little bit more next time. There's something. If you know how are the differences between Mahasi Sayador's approach and Ajahn Tongs, there are more and different points, touching points. Ajahn Tong gives the touching points relatively early in the practice, when you're doing a retreat. And in the Mahasi Sayador technique, you wouldn't necessarily have touching points. And they are different. In the Ajahn Tong method, there are more points, 26 in total. And that is one difference. I think the rising, falling, and sitting, that is very much the same. Also, the walking meditation is very much the same. But then in the retreat, when you do retreats with Ajahn Tong, you have you do your basis, the basic retreat of 21 days, 26 days, and you have at the end of each retreat sleep sleepless nights of Atitan. So after your retreat, you would try to go for enlightenment. In fact, whether that works out or not is a different story. But you go for it, you try it. And I think these sleepless nights at the end of retreats is not happening in the Mahasi centers at all. Also, in the Ajahn Tong method, there is, if you do the advanced retreat, after the basic retreat, if you do the practice, you do your, how to explain that? The 16 stages, the so-called jnanas, not to be mixed with the jhanas, the jnanas, the knowledges, the vipassana knowledges that you go through, that you are trying to work out in a short period of time. And Ajahn would give you one day, and if you don't get it, you don't get it. You go on, you continue. And that also would be different in Mahasi Sayador centers. But Mahasi Sayador talked about that with Arjun Tong, and he agreed that it's possible to do. So the last thing, and then we need to stop, because I again talk too much, is the mental noting of thinking, making the thinking stop, or covering up thoughts and making the thinking go to the background. So we talked about that in another talk. It's not pushing it away. It is the mind is a wonderful thing, a wonderful, yeah. And your awareness is such that you can have one thing at a time in one moment. For 100%, of course, you can try to have a all-around awareness and can be aware of many things. But if you want to be aware with 100% concentration and 100% awareness, or as much as possible, and be in that very moment for 100%, that where the 100% comes in, then you can have only one thing there in that moment. That can such a brief moment that we think things occur at the same time, but it's not. It's just because we are dumb, we think that things, if we really observe them well, we can only know them one after the other. And so the word, when you put the word thinking in your mind by saying it mentally, you shuffle the thought away. You do not suppress it, but it can't be there at the same time. So it's gone. It can arise. If you suppress it, you don't want it to reappear. But it can reappear, but that's a different moment. That's not the same thought and the same moment. So we learn here how brief the present moment really can be. So yeah, we're not really covering it up or suppressing it. We let it arise and we let it cease by saying the word, thinking, and after that, it may appear or it may not. So, but time is up already. So, would you like to do more of that guided meditation? Could you just briefly? I think my feeling is that yes. And so I'm just going it next time. We here in the monastery speak about conceit and maybe, okay. Okay, so we continue, and next time we might even do a little bit more than 15 minutes. Half an hour? Hmm? Okay, we do so. I wish you well and all the best. Bless you all. We also talk about suttas. We will. Bye bye.